The slingshot maneuver was a success. Screens in a control room show that we are approaching Saturn. Nevertheless, we have to be very careful with our orbit, because if we go too close, we might become a part of the iconic ring system. Whenever we mention Saturn, everybody thinks of the Lord of the Rings. And this is true. But how much do we truly know about the rings? Most people think that the rings are made from some solid material, as if someone wrapped the planet in a metallic wire. But it's far from being true. These rings are made of cosmic dust, rocks, and ice. They are crazy 282,000 kilometers in diameter. They are only 10 meters wide, like a cosmic thin sheet of paper. And if we assume that these rings will last as long as Saturn is orbiting the Sun, we are wrong. The gas giant's gravity and strong magnetosphere drags these rings into a thick atmosphere, creating something like a ring rain, which means that in a few millions or billions of years, the rings will disappear. And did you know that these rings produce sounds? No, sound doesn't spread in the vacuum of space. If it did, we would be in great trouble, but that's a topic of another episode. However, when the Cassini probe made a final flight between the innermost ring and the planet, it detected radio waves, popping, hissing, whistling sounds. NASA later made these waves audible to human ear. So let's listen what the rings sound. This radio noise gives us goosebumps, even though it's 35 degrees Celsius outside. If the innermost planets have no moons, Saturn is the realm of moons. Currently, we recognize 274 moons. However, most of them are rocks and captured, misshaped asteroids, hardly worth mentioning. In this episode, we only briefly touch on the main moons because I plan a short mini-series on Saturn's main moons. Just like it was in Jupiter's case. You can watch those shorts on the channel anytime. Titan is Saturn's most significant moon. It's kind of the Earth relative because it has a thick atmosphere. There are oceans, lakes and rivers on its surface, but they are made of methane and ethane. Enceladus. After Europa, this is the moon when we can find extraterrestrial life. Let's make it clear, alien life doesn't mean that there are green or grey men on Mars or in the other solar system. It means that we can find microbiological life like single-celled organisms or bacteria. And let's hope that we will not take them with our probes. Why is there a chance of life on Enceladus? Because on its southern pole there are geysers, which make us assume that there are oceans beneath the icy crust, and hydrothermal vents on the bottom of these oceans might create conditions necessary for life. Iapetus, also known as the yin-yang moon, this celestial body looks like it was welded from two hemispheres. One is coal black, the other is snow white. And there is a 20-kilometer high mountain range on its equator, dividing the moon into two. Mimas. This moon has a nickname, the Death Star, because it has an immense crater on its surface. Therefore, it bears resemblance to the weapon from the Star Wars. For a long time, it was known as a boring moon. But research showed that there might be an ocean as well. What do you think? Why are there so many oceans in the other solar system? If I had to guess, I would say that water was brought there following impacts, as it was most likely brought to Earth. What do you think? Although Saturn's composition is much like Jupiter's, there's a swirling core of ice, rocks, and liquid metallic hydrogen. And the thick atmosphere is made of hydrogen and helium. It's a mind-blowing fact that Saturn's density is less than that of water. If you found a vast enough ocean to place this gas giant, it would float on water. The other thing that Jupiter and Saturn have in common is their crazy rotation. Saturn rotates on its axis at a frantic pace that takes 10.5 hours. So no wonder there are supersonic winds at the equator's bands. But the most curious storm on Saturn is on its northern pole. This storm is ever ceasing, but its main significance is that it's a perfect hexagon, and we do not have any explanation why. And my favorite atmospheric phenomenon is common for Saturn. Yes, I'm talking about lightning. And this lightning is not simple. It turns methane into soot crusher, reshapes it into then diamond. So there's, possibly because it has not been proved yet, but there's a great possibility that there's diamond rain on Saturn. But unfortunately we cannot send a probe to collect these treasures, as the thick atmosphere, the great pressure and the supersonic winds would destroy a probe. And now let's step one dimension higher and look at Saturn from another perspective. Chronos, or Saturn, is the keeper of threshold, the lord of time and boundaries. We discussed in Jupiter's case that Jupiter is not a fairy who will improve our life. Saturn is not an ultimate villain either. Both of them are archetypes living in us, and they will behave the way we direct them. In my video, The Age of Aquarius Part 2, I mentioned that we do need Saturnian analogues. That is, discipline, healthy hierarchy, and order. Of course, we should not let Saturn's negative side take control. That is, being rigid and implacable. Traditional astrology considers Saturn to be the ruler of Aquarius along with Capricorn. It's not the case with modern astrology because after the discovery of Uranus, Uranus is named the ruler of Aquarius. And this is logical because Aquarius is about renewal, rebellion, and love for freedom. Nevertheless, they have in common coldness, emotional distance, and logic above all. In whichever house Saturn is in your birth chart, nothing comes easy. But if we are willing to work hard, we can gain stability, outstanding results, and wisdom. And whether we gained it or not is shown when we are tested by Saturn. Saturn's orbiting time is approximately 29.5 years. So you can count when these tests come. When there is a square, a Saturn-Saturn opposition, another square, and a Saturn's return. We experience the crisis. It means that we lived in illusion, and it's time to grow up. I did experience the crisis during my first Saturn-Saturn opposition, but there was a time when I started to write songs. And yes, as I promised, these songs will be available on my channel in the nearest future. During my Saturnal return, I started dealing with writing more seriously. Saturn is a planet we think we know inside out. Yet it is a jewelry box full of curiosities. Here's one of them, the beautiful Aurora detected in infrared light on its poles. We have to move on, but I can promise you that the next celestial body we visit will be full of surprises as well. Thanks for joining me. Watch the upcoming mini-series and we'll meet in a few astronomical units further in the outer solar system.